What if I told you the broken chair, the cracked pot, and even your old flip-flops could become the most beautiful part of your garden? This isn't about expensive tools or store-bought kits. It's about using what you already have and seeing it differently. Today, we're going beyond DIY. We're creating garden art with soul, made from trash, but destined to inspire. Welcome to Arkan Aesthetic Studio, the home of everyday beauty and sustainable creativity. This video features over 25 curated ideas for turning discarded items into backyard summer masterpieces. Each one is crafted to help you transform your space without spending a fortune. We've included timestamps, so feel free to jump to what inspires you most. And if you have questions, the comments are always open. If you enjoy this content, I invite you to recreate it your way. Use what you have, get your hands messy, and let beauty grow where waste once sat a day. And before we begin, something personal. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. You're not just helping a creator grow, you're helping a dream stay alive. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. One, plastic bottle flower vines for fence walls. In the quiet hush of a July afternoon, the garden hums with sun and song. A wooden fence once plain and weathered now bursts with life, not from roses or ivy, but from petals cut and curled from old plastic bottles, reborn in vibrant hues of lavender, peach, and sky blue. Each flower, once discarded as waste, now dances in the breeze, their translucent wings catching the sunlight like stained glass in motion. These vines do not need water nor root. They live on color and purpose, wrapping gently across beams and edges, climbing with silent joy. Around them, real daisies lean close, as if admiring the handiwork of hands that dared to see beauty in what others left behind. It smells of rosemary, soil, and marigolds. Bees flit past without prejudice. In this space, trash has no shame, only stories. A strawberry glistens under the leaf shadow of a bottle bloom. A bird sings from a nearby branch, unconcerned whether a flower grew from soil or scissors. Here, plastic is not pollution, it is poetry. Two, upcycled metal can lanterns with summer glow. As the sun stretches its final golden fingers across the garden, light begins to bloom from the unexpected. Hung like delicate secrets from tree limbs and pergolas, metal cans, once holding soup, now pierced with patience and hope, flicker with life. A candle's glow, held captive in a can of mint and blush, escapes through tiny holes shaped like petals and constellations. The dotted beams dance on bark and leaf, painting the twilight with patterns only found in quiet corners of forgotten beauty. They sway gently in the summer breeze, speaking in soft creaks and crackles. Underneath, the flowers blush, marigold, lavender, and cosmos swaying to their slow, glowing rhythm. Children chase fireflies through their light halos, and a basket of peaches rests on an old stool, kissed by the warmth of a nearby lantern. These lanterns do not shout, they hum. They hum of slow evenings, second chances, and the magic of making something beautiful with nothing at all. The cans were once empty. Tonight, they are full of light. Three colorful detergent bottle garden planters. In the hush of morning, when dew still clings to petal and leaf, the garden begins to speak in color. Along the fence, shapes once known as waste, detergent bottles, faded and forgotten, now bloom with stories. Cut, cleaned, and kissed with paint, they cradle life in their bellies. Mint spills like laughter from a peach-colored bottle with hand-drawn daisies. Lemon balm leans into the breeze, its roots held gently in a bottle once meant for laundry. The plants seem to smile, thriving in homes made not of clay or ceramic, but of second chances. Each planter is a message, that color lives in function, that joy can be crafted from the ordinary. Their cheerful curves and patterns bounce sunlight back into the garden, where bees hum and petals glow. Children peek into each vessel like treasure chests, discovering tiny blossoms and herbal perfume. The air smells like summer, green, sweet, and full of newness. This is no ordinary garden. It is a place where soap becomes soil, plastic becomes poetry, and every bloom is a gentle rebellion against waste. Four rustic yogurt cup herb pots with hand-painted labels. Tucked beneath a lazy canopy of grape leaves, where sunlight flickers like laughter, sit rows of tiny planters, each one a humble yogurt cup dressed in new skin. Once torn and tossed, now adorned with brushstrokes of floral blues and summer yellows, they hold within them small forests of flavor. Thyme stretches skyward from a cup brushed with violets. Basil nods gently in the wind, its roots settled in soil and second chances. Each planter bears a name, hand-lettered like poetry on popsicle stick signs, as if announcing their presence to passing bees and curious birds. There is something tender here, in the reuse, in the imperfection, in the soft way green grows from what once held only cream. The scent of herbs weaves through the air like a kitchen memory, mingling with blooms nearby. Calendula golden and sweet, chamomile like whispers. No part of this corner was bought. It was gathered, painted, repurposed with care. And that care shows. In the way each cup leans slightly but stands tall. In the way they hold life, not just plants, but intention. This is more than gardening. It is gratitude in practice. Five CD Mosaic Garden Stepping Stones. Each step along the garden path is a memory that glints, a shimmer underfoot that catches the eye like a whisper. What once spun sound, old CDS now shattered by time, live again in fragments, arranged like jewels into circles of light and stone. The ground gleams with their second life. In the morning sun, their surfaces dance with colors unnamed, hues caught between lilac and gold. No two are the same, just as no story is. Some steps are edged in soft cement, others framed by time and moss, but all share the same magic, transformation. Around the path, daisies nod in approval. Lavender hums with bees. The air carries a trace of mint and ripening tomato, summer alive in every breath. Children follow the trail barefoot, giggling as light bounces onto their legs like fairy dust. Even the birds pause to watch. These are not just stepping stones. They are fragments of forgotten music, laid carefully into earth and silence. They hold the joy of creation, the thrill of risk, breaking something to make something brighter. And as you walk this path, with petals brushing your ankles and reflections guiding your way, you understand, beauty isn't always whole. Sometimes, it's in the broken pieces. Six, worn-out frying pans turned wall garden art. Once forgotten in the back of kitchen drawers, blackened by years and heat, they now hang like medals on a wooden fence, frying pans transformed, each one a silent hymn to beauty reborn. Painted by patient hands, the pans are no longer vessels of oil and flame, but of stories. One holds a robin in flight, its wings stretched across enamel and rust. Another bears sunflowers blooming across its battered face. A third cradles a shallow bed of soil, where a cascade of tiny succulents spills over the rim like green lace. This fence doesn't divide, it invites. It whispers, "Look closer." Morning glories curl through the handles. Bees trace circles around painted petals. The scent of jasmine and thyme carries softly in the breeze, mingling with the sweet hum of nearby blooms. In their new life, these pans need not cook. They warm the soul instead. The garden wall, once bare and grey, now sings in color and texture. It sings of second chances, of hands that saw art where others saw trash. It sings in birdsong and bloom, a summer choir with frying pans for sopranos. Here, every surface is a canvas, and even metal can dream. Seven, torn bedsheets as colorful garden hammocks. In the hush of a summer afternoon, where sun rests gently upon leaves and silence hums like a lullaby, a hammock sways, not of canvas or rope, but of memories. Strips of old bedsheets, faded by years of sleep and sunlight, are braided with care into a cradle that now holds nothing but peace. Flowers that once lined the edges of pillows now dance across fabric caught in wind. Stripes that once hugged tired bodies now stretch across branches, supporting dreams of another kind. Here, suspended between two trees, the world slows. Bees drift lazily through chamomile. A jug of tea sweats quietly beside a basket of warm fruit. The sheets whisper, not of sorrow, but of stories, of hands that wove them new, of mornings transformed into something restful and reborn. No part of this place is waste. Not the cloth, not the leaves, not even the time that passes here so slowly it almost feels like it's standing still. This hammock is a soft rebellion, against throwaway culture, against speed, against forgetting. It holds the weight of stillness, of summer, of softness salvaged. And for a moment, in its gentle swing, the garden becomes a poem. Eight old t-shirts twisted into hanging flower baskets. They once clung to shoulders, soaked in sunlight and story. Now, those old t-shirts, softened by time and fray, rise again, twisted into ropes of purpose, knotted in patterns only patient hands can weave. Hung from branches and beams, they cradle baskets of bloom. Petunias spill like laughter from worn cotton. Fuchsia dangles like jewels between strands of coral and teal. The fabric sways in the breeze, not like clothing, but like vines that remember warmth. Each knot holds a memory, a summer afternoon on a porch, a favorite shirt worn thin by dance and garden work. Now, reimagined, they lift life, literally, into the air. The pergola hums with color and scent. Below, tomatoes ripen, strawberries hide beneath leaves, and butterflies flirt with flowers. In this garden, nothing is too old to be lovely again. Not a shirt, not a moment, not a soul. There's grace in this gravity, in how fabric once meant for bodies now supports blossoms, how softness becomes strength. And as you look up, as petals sway above you in baskets held by stories, you feel it. The gentle truth that everything, even the forgotten, can still hold beauty. Nine, cracked ceramic pieces as fairy garden borders. Some pieces were once prized, a porcelain saucer passed down, a teacup chipped by time, a tile that knew the hush of an old kitchen floor. Now, fractured but chosen, they line the edges of a secret realm. Cracked ceramics, their patterns still dancing in blue and rose, form the boundary of something smaller, softer, a fairy garden that whispers rather than shouts. Moss grows thick between the curves of each shard, like memory holding them gently in place. Among them, violets bloom. Tiny white blossoms nod along winding paths no wider than a child's finger. Little houses made of bark and stone sit nestled under foxgloves, their windows glinting with dew. A butterfly lingers near a door, as if waiting for someone to return. There is no symmetry here, only intention, only love placed piece by piece, choosing beauty not in perfection, but in story. This is not a space for grandeur. It is a haven for the forgotten, for ceramic once cracked, for dreams once paused. And somehow, it feels more alive than the rest. In this corner, the garden kneels down low and smiles. Glass jar butterfly feeders for summer pollinators. Hung gently among the branches, they glisten, not as storage, but as invitation. Glass jars, once filled with jam and memory, now dangle like lanterns of sweetness, their mouths holding sponges soaked in summer's secret recipe. Butterflies arrive in quiet wonder. One by one, they drift on invisible breezes, pulled toward sugar and scent. Monarchs pause mid-air before settling. Painted ladies flutter near with delicate trust. Their wings catch the sun and scatter it, like stained glass in slow motion. The jars, wrapped in lace and ribbon, don't shout their purpose. They simply offer. The nectar drips gently. The flowers bloom louder around them. Zinnias blazing, marigolds pulsing gold, coneflowers wide as smiles. This is no manicured corner, but a haven for pollinators, for people, for anything drawn to color and calm. A child watches from a distance, hand on the back of a wooden chair, eyes wide in summer silence. The moment is not planned. It is discovered. These feeders do not boast. They serve. They remind that even something as simple as a jar can give flight to magic, and that the smallest sweetness, given freely, can bring the sky down to the garden. (11) Giant plastic spoons as plant markers. Once destined for picnic tables and forgotten drawers, the plastic spoons now stand proudly in beds of green. Their bowls no longer carry soup, but names, painted in flowing script, wrapped in flowers, made bold by color. Tomato, basil, chamomile. Each word curves gently across a painted handle, the letters dancing beside ladybug doodles or swirling vines. Set in soil, these spoons do more than mark. They declare, with joy and clarity, what grows here and why. The plants lean toward them as if listening. Basil brushes its glossy leaves against yellow plastic. Lavender stands tall near a spoon the color of dawn. There's no need to search or guess. The garden, once a tangle, now sings in labeled harmony. Around them, life stirs. Bees dive into marigold hearts. Butterflies hover like punctuation. The spoons, bright, simple, and sincere, help it all feel both cared for and playful. And for the gardener, there is a certain sweetness in it. In giving trash a task. In writing beauty onto something once blank. In showing the soil that everything, even a plastic spoon, has something worth saying. Wire hanger sculptures for climbing flowers. They began as hangers, stiff, unnoticed, tucked in closets and bent by time. But in the hands of a dreamer, even the plainest wire remembers how to dance. Now, shaped into arches and spirals, they rise from the soil like whispers. Their curves support stems instead of sleeves. Morning glories wrap them in gratitude, coiling their soft vines around the cool metal like lovers finding warmth. Each sculpture leans with intention, painted in the hues of faded cottages and old garden gloves. Dusty rose, moss green, cloud white, and with each bloom that reaches higher, sweet peas trembling, clematis unfolding. The hangers seem to stretch too, quietly proud of their new purpose. Around them, the garden glows. Bees dip through petals. Butterflies flutter by as if inspecting the art. The trellises, once ordinary, now hum softly, giving structure to something wild and gentle. There is something deeply tender here. A transformation not just of material, but of meaning. Wire that once held shirts now holds summer. And in every curve, there is a kind of kindness, the kind that makes flowers climb toward the sun. 13. Recycled bike tires as bold floral wreaths. Once they spun fast, kissed by road and rain, bike tires that chased wind and distance. Now, they rest against wood and stone, their journeys reborn in bloom. Painted in joyful color, the tires have softened. No longer tools of travel, they are circles of celebration, floral wreaths that hold the heartbeat of summer. Petals burst from their centers, vines drip from their rims, ribbons flutter like forgotten laughter. Each one tells a story not of motion, but of meaning. A tire now adorned with orange zinnias once raced through city streets. Another, framed in dried lavender and straw flowers, once knew the dust of country trails. Now, they hang still, yet feel more alive than ever. Behind them, roses stretch tall. Clematis weaves between spokes. The garden embraces them, these symbols of spin and start, and in doing so, transforms them into something eternal. Visitors stop to admire. Some smile. Others reach out, fingers brushing soft bloom against hard rubber. None leave untouched. For in these wreaths, there is wonder. That something once hurried can now teach stillness. That something once worn can now wear flowers like a crown. And that circles, when filled with love, never really end. "14. Vintage kettle planters on wooden stumps. They once hissed with steam and morning rituals. Kettles that boiled for stories, for rain-filled days, for quiet cups beside windows. Now, emptied of water and time, they hold something far softer. Set atop stumps like humble pedestals, these vintage kettles bloom. Their enamel skins chipped with charm, their handles worn by years of use, they cradle summer, golden marigolds, velvety pansies, soft threads of time trailing over their spouts. No longer pressed into service, they now simply offer color, memory, a gentleness that pours slowly into the garden without ever spilling. Around them, petals drift in the wind. A squirrel pauses. Sunlight dapples through the trees and lands in the kettle mouths like honey. There's no rush here, only presence. Each kettle tells a different story. One of warmth, one of patience, one of the kind of beauty that grows best when given space. Even rust, in this place, becomes an ornament, a reminder that age can be a frame, not a flaw. Here, the garden listens, and the kettles, though they whistle no more, speak still, in bloom, in balance, in the soft way they hold life. "15. Rusty graters turned into mini lighted bird feeders. Once they carved and shredded, sharp and sure in kitchen rhythm. Now, touched by rust and rain, they hang quietly from branches, their edges softened not by time alone, but by purpose renewed. Inside each hollow frame, light flickers, warm, golden, alive. The holes that once grated cheese now scatter starlight onto petals and wings. Small birds flutter in, drawn to the offering. A dish of seeds, a soft place to rest, a circle of unexpected welcome. The graters, weathered with grace, are not hidden. They are honored. Dangling among cosmos and primrose, They glow like lanterns forged by forest hands. Their metal hums with history, but their presence sings of stillness and giving. Around them, the garden changes. Dusk leans in. Lavender sways. Fireflies blink into the world like punctuation. The air thickens with scent and light, and yet everything feels weightless. There is something humbling here, in the transformation of tool to totem. In the way something once made to shred now shines and feeds. Beauty, in its purest form, is always repurposed. And so the graters stay, lit from within, inviting birds and dreams alike. (16) Painted rain boots as whimsical plant pots. They once splashed through puddles, trampled through mud, carried laughter through rainy walks. Now, scuffed and still, the rain boots bloom. Painted with joy, strawberries on one, sunflowers on another. They stand proud, mismatched but radiant, cradling bursts of summer color. Snapdragons rise tall from red rubber. Marigolds spill from yellow plaid. Even the old black boot, now spotted in white dots, holds petunias like confetti. They are no longer worn, but they wear beauty well. Arranged like a poem on steps and shelves, the boots echo childhood and change. The garden smiles around them. Bees hover with curiosity. Butterflies dip low, tempted by blossoms growing where feet once fit. These boots do not march anymore. They root. They hold. They give. It's not just cleverness. It's kindness. To see the tired as useful, the forgotten as playful. To let flowers grow from souls once soaked in rain. In every crooked boot, there is a second life, and in that life, color louder than any thunder. (17) Old mirror shards in shabby chic mosaic benches. It was once broken, glass scattered like words unsaid, but gathered gently, piece by piece, the mirror found a new rhythm. Now, those shards rest in a bench's embrace, set into soft wood painted like an old summer dress, pale blue, kissed by time. They shimmer not in sharpness, but in grace. The back of the bench holds vines of light, each mirror fragment catching a flicker of flower, a passing bee, a stretch of sky. You sit, and you see more than just your shape. You see the garden reflected back in pieces, roses bending in breeze, snapdragons nodding like old friends, lavender sending up its hush of purple scent. The bench doesn't speak, but it listens. It holds your weight without judgment, offering instead 1,000 tiny lights, dancing quietly in the noon sun. There is no perfection here, only patchwork, only the poetry of repair. A mirror once cracked becomes a place to rest. A bench once plain becomes a stage for light. And somehow, sitting there, you feel more whole than ever. (18) CDS hanging mobile with wind chime sounds. They once held sound, songs and stories spinning in silence. Now, hung like jewels in the open air, old CDS sing again, but in light and wind. Suspended from branches by string and whimsy, the discs dance in the summer breeze. Each turn throws arcs of rainbow across leaves and stone. Between them, tiny chimes, from spoons, shells, or slender bells, whisper against one another in notes too gentle for radios, too wild for records. The sound is soft, like memory. The light is wild, like joy. Birds pause mid-flight. A butterfly lands on the edge of a painted CD, one now graced with petals and sky. Beneath it, the garden hums. Daisies in conversation, echinacea lifting toward the sparkle, cosmos nodding as if to say yes, again and again. This mobile is no longer made of data or digital ghosts. It is present, physical, and full of purpose. It turns trash into tone, reflection into reverie. As the breeze moves through and the garden answers back with bloom and rustle, it becomes clear. This is music made from silence, and it belongs only to the wind and those who slow down long enough to hear it. "19. Jean's pocket planters for succulents on fences." They once held coins, keys, and bits of paper hearts, Jean's pockets worn by time and movement. Now, stitched into the wooden bones of a garden fence, they cradle something softer, yet somehow stronger, life. Tiny succulents nestle inside, their plump leaves rising from seams and stitches. Echeveria blooms like rosettes in faded denim. Sedum curls up in a corner where a hand once warmed. The fabric, frayed and familiar, holds the weight of soil with quiet dignity. Each pocket tells a story in blue, pale from sun, dark from work, all now giving instead of holding. Painted flowers swirl beside real ones. Embroidered vines stretch near the real rose tendrils winding up the fence. The garden greets them not as scraps, but as sentinels. They hang in rows, guardians of green, tiny canvases of care. Around them, the day hums with bees and birdsong. Below, nasturtiums giggle and calendula beams. And as the sun spills across those old pockets, once symbols of wear, now signs of creativity, you begin to understand. Nothing is too small to plant beauty in. Not even a pocket. "20. Reused umbrella skeletons as trellises for morning glories." They were meant for storms, to open with urgency, to shelter against sky. But here, beneath a softer kind of weather, umbrella frames rise like sculptures of quiet rebellion. Turned upward, or hung like chandeliers from trees, their metal bones cradle vines that reach for light. Morning glories twist through the spokes, each bloom a soft trumpet announcing the day. Blue, fuchsia, lilac, petals wide like smiles. There is poetry in their shape now, once a barrier, now an invitation. The rusted hinges don't resist, they embrace. The ribs hold not raindrops but blossoms, curling tenderly around every angle of their new form. Below, cushions invite pause. A book rests open. Bees thread their way between blooms, and hummingbirds sip from the air. This is no longer a place of protection. It is a place of surrender, to beauty, to reuse, to summer in full song. And in the silence between the flowers, you hear it. The sound of something discarded becoming something adored. An umbrella, now blooming, that has finally opened, not for rain, but for joy. (21) Spoon and fork sculptures hidden among blooms. Tucked between blooms and buzzing wings, they wait, not alive, but not lifeless either. Spoons and forks, once instruments of meals, now masquerade as insects, petals, and swirls, catching light like secrets meant only for the observant. A dragonfly gleams in morning sun, its wings hammered smooth from silverware. A fork's tines curl into fern-like spirals, climbing beside real leaves as if unsure where metal ends and nature begins. Hidden among echinacea and daisies, these tiny sculptures seem to flutter without moving. They don't speak. They shimmer. They echo. Bent by fire or hand, these tools become totems. Their curves are not mistakes, but gestures of play, of purpose, of patience. Garden visitors glance twice, then smile. Children spot them like treasure. Butterflies land undisturbed. And the flowers, oh, how they welcome them. Lavender brushes a fork handle. A zinnia leans close to a spoon blossom. Even the bees seem intrigued. Here, among root and bloom, silver finds softness. The hard edges dull in kindness. There is no spotlight, no pedestal, only earth and art, and the gentle truth that beauty often hides where no one looks. Even in old cutlery, something still stirs. (22) Broken photo frames as climbing plant frames. Once they held portraits, moments frozen in time, smiles behind glass, the weight of memory. But now, emptied and weathered, the frames stand in soil, and life passes through them freely. No longer on walls, they rest among roots. Clematis curls through gilded edges. Sweet peas thread their way through once sacred borders. The garden takes them gently, not as relics, but as ladders for bloom. Each frame, chipped or bent, becomes an invitation, an opening, a window into what could be rather than what was. Painted in whispers of turquoise or left bare to the grain, they guide green tendrils upward like old souls lifting new hope. There are no photographs here, only petals, only sun and vine. The wind moves through them. Light dances inside their hollows. What once captured a single image now hosts 1,000, shifting, living, vanishing with the season. And somehow, they feel more alive than ever. In a garden built from second chances, even the frames find new stories, not ones hung in halls, but rooted in earth, written in bloom. (23) Repainted water jugs as summer watering stations. Once heavy with water and purpose, the gallon jugs stood unnoticed in corners. But now, brushed in summer's palette and placed with care, they've become something slower, softer, watering stations not just for plants, but for paws. Painted with blossoms and berries, the jugs gleam under the morning sun. A gentle tap turns, and water trickles like a whisper into shallow bowls below. Birds flutter near. Bees pause to sip. Even the roots seem to lean in. They do not rush. These jugs release only what is needed, just enough, just when. Their presence in the garden is quiet but generous, like old fountains that remember how to listen. Around them, basil stretches in thanks. Marigolds glow brighter. A child presses their hand to the painted side, tracing a daisy with a fingertip. This is not irrigation. It's invitation. To witness water not as utility, but as offering. To let something discarded become central again, in rhythm with heat, growth, and thirst. And in every drop they give, these jugs remind us. In summer, it is the slow, steady kindness that keeps a garden alive. '24. Wire laundry line reimagined as hanging fruit display. Once a place for linens and laundry, stretched tight across backyard air, the old wire line now dances with weight far sweeter. Baskets of summer's finest, hung like ornaments in the sun. Strawberries spill from a mesh pouch. Lemons sway in a crate of woven twigs. A bag of cherry tomatoes glows like captured sunset. They dangle gently in the breeze, kissed by heat, admired by butterflies and curious hands. Each basket is tied with care, ribbons from forgotten aprons, scraps of garden cloth, twine softened by weather. The line no longer bears towels, it bears joy. Below, the garden nods its approval. Sunflowers crane toward the bounty. Mint and basil carry scent up through the air. Even the bees linger longer near the fruit, humming praise. This is not storage. It is celebration. A rhythm of ripeness strung where laundry once flapped. A place where harvest and history share a thread. The wire, though old, holds steady, giving space to what grows, to what feeds, to what makes summer feel full. And in the shade of peaches and grapes, you realize, this garden doesn't just grow things from the ground. It grows them in the air too. '25. Recycled glass jars as tea light holders for garden dinners. Once they sealed in sweetness, apricot jam, lemon curd, honey thick from the hive. But now, as evening folds into the garden, these glass jars glow from within, each one a small keeper of flame. Lined along a table set under roses, or swaying gently from branches, they flicker with purpose. Some are wrapped in lace, others in ribbons faded by sun. A few cradle-pressed flowers, memories caught in glass. The candles inside do not blaze. They hum, a golden hush over strawberries in bowls, over linen napkins fluttering in the breeze, over conversation that softens as the light deepens. Each jar becomes a star at arm's length. They do not guide ships or time. They guide presence. Beneath them, time sends up its scent. Above, the sky blushes one last time before night. The clinking of spoons and the laughter of old friends drift through the glow, as if caught between flame and bloom. This is what it means to repurpose, not just the object, but the moment. To take something emptied and fill it again, with warmth, with stillness, with light. '26. Hand-painted leaky pots turned into bird baths. Once they hissed on stovetops, carrying soup and steam. Now, pansai bokor, leaky, forgotten, no longer useful in the kitchen, cradle the sky itself. Painted by hand with blooming vines, curling petals, and garden folklore, they sit proudly on wooden stumps. Their dents are softened by color, their rust kissed by intention. Inside, water glistens, not deep, but enough. Enough for a bird's trust. Sparrows flutter down, testing the edge with delicate feet. A robin splashes, wings stretched in sunlit joy. Petals float quietly across the surface, carried by breeze, by memory. These pans no longer feed the body. They nourish the air. Around them, the garden leans in. Bee balm pulses red, coneflowers bend in purple grace, and bees weave gold lines between bloom and bath. A wooden sign whispers humor, bird spa. And indeed, it is. The birds come not just to drink, but to pause, to reflect, to belong. And in the shimmer of their movement, in the ripples sent across repurposed metal, you see what healing looks like, not just for them, but for everything we choose to hold differently. Even a pan that once leaked now overflows. "27. Upcycled towel cushions for outdoor benches." They once dried saltwater from skin, caught laughter on beaches, and cradled tired shoulders after long days in the sun. Now, those towels, worn but willing, return to softness once more, not as cloth, but as comfort. Stitched into cushions, they line a wooden bench beneath vines and shadow. Their faded stripes speak of memories. Their fibers, stretched and relaxed, offer a new kind of rest. Coral and lemon, ocean blue and sand white. A palette not from paint, but from the world outside. You sit. The pillows welcome without expectation. Around you, daisies nod. Lavender leans close. The air smells like mint and warmth, and somewhere a finch sings like it's telling no one in particular. A book rests on your lap, unopened. The moment is enough. These pillows were not bought. They were made, by hand, by thought, by the desire to give the old another chance to hold something good. And as you sink into their quiet kindness, you realize, softness isn't in the thread count. It's in the intention. In every frayed edge, a story. In every faded color, a summer well remembered. "28. Colorful flip-flops transformed into whimsical wind chimes." They once danced along shorelines, skipped across hot pavement, and flopped lazily through gardens. Their soles now split, their straps long gone. The flip-flops found stillness, but not silence. Strung beneath branches, cut and colored into shapes that laugh. Stars, feathers, petals. They move once more, this time with the breeze. Joined by shells and beads, by keys that once locked childhood diaries, by driftwood kissed by tide, they chime not with volume, but with whimsy. Each note they give is a memory released. Sunflowers listen without blinking. The breeze carries their song over lavender and cosmos. A butterfly floats by and lingers, as if curious about the rhythm of the repurposed. The sound is not perfect. It clacks. It clicks. Sometimes it sighs. But it's the sound of joy unpolished. of letting old things have new tunes. They no longer carry feet, they carry air. And beneath their gentle clatter, you feel something stir. A reminder that even the lightest things, the forgotten and floppy, can still make music that matters, especially in summer. '29. Old helmets as hanging fern planters. They once cradled motion, strapped tight for speed, grit, and gravel. But now, nestled in stillness, old helmets hang not to protect, but to provide. Painted in the hush of earthy greens and warm ochres, they rest mid-air, repurposed into cradles for ferns. The plants spill from their open faces like secrets long held, delicate fronds, feathered tendrils, soft threads that move with wind instead of wheels. The garden embraces them easily, no questions asked. The helmets hang like relics of a wilder time, now softened by moss, sun, and silence. Above, the branches sway. Below, foxgloves and mint nod their welcome. And between the leaves, a shaft of light catches on water clinging to fern tips, a quiet glint of rebirth. They no longer guard heads. They now hold life. And in that transformation, there is trust that even something made for impact can learn to host peace. That strength can become sanctuary. That protection isn't always about armor. Sometimes it's about allowing growth. Here, the helmets don't rush. They hang. They breathe. They bloom. '30. Stacked old tires blooming as bee-friendly flower towers. Once they rolled across dirt roads and asphalt, carrying stories in rubber rings. Now, grounded and stacked with purpose, the old tires rise as towers, not of travel, but of bloom. Painted in bold colors borrowed from flowers themselves, they cradle layers of earth and petals. Bee balm flames from one rim, lavender sighs from another. Between them, bees spiral upward in golden loops, drawn by the scent, the shape, the hum. The tires no longer race. They root. Each ring becomes a flaw in a hive of color. Bamboo tubes tucked into their edges offer shelter. The soil bursts with nectar-rich bloom, spilling green and gold from once black rubber. Children walk the winding path between towers, giggling as bees brush past. A sign nearby whispers truth, Bee Haven. And it is. This is a monument not to machines, but to motion of another kind, wings, wind, and the rhythm of renewal. Here, what once wore tread now wears life. And in the stillness of that unexpected beauty, the message is simple. When we rise not for ourselves, but for the smallest, we bloom bigger than ever. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.